Loving the wrong person can cost you your life. I learned that when I fell in love with Aileen Wuornos, the woman the world would later know as a serial killer. My name is Tyria Moore, and this is my truth. I met her in a roadside bar in Daytona Beach, Florida, in the late 1980s. I worked as a waitress and lived a simple life, with no big ambitions. That night, the bar was full of smoke, loud laughter, and drunken men. Out of that crowd, she appeared. Aileen walked in with a firm stride, her blonde hair messy, wearing a worn denim jacket. She sat in front of me at the bar, ordered a cheap beer, and looked at me with eyes so intense, almost defiant. She wasn't the kind of woman you expected to find in a place like that. There was something in her, a mix of toughness and vulnerability, that caught me immediately. We started talking, and surprisingly, she made me laugh. She spoke with blunt honesty, without filters, and beneath her roughness, there was something tender. That very night we went out together, and from then on, our lives became entangled in a way I never imagined. I was insecure, lonely, and she offered me something I had never felt before, the feeling of being seen, of mattering to someone. Soon our relationship grew intense. We spent almost all our time together. We moved from small rented rooms to shabby motels. She worked the highways as a prostitute to bring in money, and I clung to the idea that together we could build a life. We had no luxuries, we barely survived. But there was affection and moments of complicity. She told me pieces of her harsh childhood, how she had been rejected and beaten down by life from an early age. I listened, I comforted her, and convinced myself that love could heal her wounds. But over time, I began to notice strange things. Some nights she came back agitated, her eyes distant, like she had been in a fight. Other times she brought home objects that weren't hers, watches, tools, jackets. When I asked where they came from, she gave evasive answers or invented excuses. I wanted to believe her, to keep the illusion that everything was fine, but deep down a shadow of fear was growing in me. In 1990, disturbing news began to appear on TV and in the newspapers. Men were being found dead on Florida highways. They were violent crimes, and all of them had picked up a woman before disappearing. The police were searching for clues and speaking of a blonde suspect. When they showed photos of the abandoned cars and mentioned witnesses who had seen a strange woman with the victims, I knew what I had tried so hard to deny. That woman was Aileen. The police net began to close in. Aileen was nervous, paranoid. We spent entire days hiding in dingy bars or cheap motels. I felt that every knock at the door could be the police. My life had become a nightmare. I loved that woman, but I was more and more certain she had done something terrible. Eventually, the police approached me. They showed me evidence, victims' belongings that had been pawned under Aileen's name, testimonies of people who had seen her driving the cars of missing men. I knew it was only a matter of time before she was arrested, and that if I stayed silent, they could charge me as an accomplice. It was the hardest decision of my life, to collaborate with them. I agreed to make phone calls to persuade her to confess. I will never forget the tremor in my voice. I told her, "Aileen, please, tell me the truth. I don't want them to blame me. Do it for me." She cried, swore she was only defending herself from men who wanted to hurt her, that she acted out of desperation. I insisted, and finally, with a broken voice, she said, "All right, Ty. I did it. I killed them." A chill ran through my entire body. That sentence sealed our fate. When the trial came, I had to testify. I sat across from her, and she was no longer the woman I had met in that bar. She looked hardened, tired, like a ghost who had lost the battle against herself. My voice broke as I recounted what I had lived by her side. I didn't want to destroy her, but I knew I had to save myself. And I also knew that, somehow, giving voice to the truth was the only way out. Aileen was found guilty and sentenced to death. She spent a decade in prison, becoming a dark symbol of serial crime. Finally, on October 9th, 2002, she was executed by lethal injection in Florida at the age of 46. I never saw her again, I disappeared, changed my life, and sought anonymity. I am not a heroine, nor a martyr. I am simply a woman who loved the wrong person, and who had to betray that love to survive. Many years have passed, but I still wake up at night, hearing her voice in my head, remembering those phone calls where she confessed her crimes, believing she was doing it to protect me. But there are invisible scars that will never heal. I loved Aileen Wuornos, and I survived to tell.